Now that that paint is all dry, this looked like it needed a little more pattern to me. So I'm adding a vintage book page. It's in French. I don't know what it says, but then I don't overanalyze what kind of text I'm putting down. Just let it be what it's going to be. Let's see how much of this lilac is left. Add some color, not much. Go for the mulberry. See what happens there. I'm going to get it a little wet, just so it'll move around a little bit more. Just dipped it right into the water I had for cleaning my brushes. If I were using just the water to make my paint move, then I would probably have a clean water bottle or water, jar, something that wasn't so full of paint, but yeah, it's okay. You don't have to be super rigid about these things. That part's starting to bubble up, so just place it back down. A little bit of time with the heat gun. So you can feel free to keep going and going with these layers as much as you want, especially with what I'm doing with this one in particular. You'll see at the end, I'll end up doing a big circle of gesso, and a lot of it, the disorder is going to kind of blend together. It won't be perfectly orderly, but it will still blend together. And I'm going to do one more paint technique. I'm going to put straight up acrylic down And this one's messy. So you will want to move things out of the way that you don't want to get messy, because this goes pretty far. It's the splatter technique. So again, I'm getting my paintbrush really wet here, and it's ultimately really not going to matter. I might use some a clean water mix if I were going to do this in other circumstances, but in this case I'm not. Okay, so it's all loaded, lots of water there, dipped it in the acrylic, and then I'm just going to tap. And then I get these little spots. So I'm going to add a little bit more than what I think I'm going for, because you can also remove the paint, some of these little extra puddly ones. And my hands just got really messy, not even necessarily from the splatter part. But that's the artist life for you. So some of them, if you let it dry just a little bit and then blot it up, then you get this little ghost print, and it might be hard to see even if I lift up the canvas, but I'm going to try. I'm going to dab up a couple more of them. So I'm going to take the heat gun to them just a little bit. There we go. And then you get this kind of a ring around it. There, these are doing it nicely. You don't have to do it with all of them, but this is really fun. So I might do it with most of them. Some of them are already really dry, so it's not going to do anything. Okay, I'm going to lift this up and hope that it focuses enough so that you can see that texture, because a lot of it is going to get covered up later on. And then I have my little marks here all around it. I've been using white paper underneath to protect my surface, and also it's helping to reflect the light so you get a clearer image. But if you do that, you can keep your painted messy papers, keep using them over and over again, and then use those later in collage to cut out shapes, to do your mandalas, or to do layers, however you want to do it. Now I'm using this time a spray ink. This is by Lindy's Stamp Gang Starburst sprays. So they have different lines, and their labels look different now. I've had these for a while. I got really excited. And then we moved, and then I had 2 more babies. So I still have a lot of things left over from previous buying, like my eco paint. Okay. So then that leaves some pattern, and this ink isn't super dark. So again, I'm going to lift it up so you can kind of see. This has mica in it, so it is going to be kind of shimmery. And they add a fixative to theirs, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to react at least a little bit with other things you put on top of it. So you can see that there's a pattern happening there. And then it has the little pools of ink, and that creates its own interest. And I'm going to dry this again. We're coming up on the end of the time here. I'm just going to dry a little bit, and then the more you let it dry, the more there are going to be concentrated parts of the ink. So you're going to see more pattern that way, more color and pattern that way. More shimmer too, because the mica collects in those puddles. But because I'm trying to show you what I want to show you and not get too lost within myself while I'm doing it, which is very easy to do. I'm going to blot up some of it. And with these heat guns, you do want to keep it moving. Sometimes I'll stay in a spot just a little bit more to make sure that if it's extra wet, it's going to get dry. But then it'll make your glue start to bubble. And then if it does that, you can just poke it back down. It's really not an emergency, but you also don't want to set your paper on fire. That would be a safety hazard. Let's not do that. All right, I'm just going to blot this one spot. That's very cool. See, you got this that little ghost bubble image, which is, I'm sure, impossible to see on the video there, but try it. I think you'll like it. And the next thing is an alcohol ink. This is Wild Plum by Ranger, their Adirondack line. So I'm going to show you the drip method. Just squeeze it right up there. It is dye based and it has some glycerin in it. So if it's really thick like this, then it's going to, it can get a little sticky. And because it's dye based, that means it does react with water. The alcohol in it makes it flow really well, which makes the dripping part really fun. And they're kind of, you can't really predict exactly what they're going to do. Now that's a cranberry, which is in the red family, and it can look kind of creepy. I don't really want my piece to look like it has blood dripping on it, so I'm going to scrape that ink and spread it around, and then it gets more transparent, more in the pink family. So you have the choice. You can let it drip however you like and stay that way, or you can just move it around This is, what is that color? It's orange. I don't know the exact color. They come in threes. Oh, sunset orange. Generally what I've seen at Michael's, I may have bought some on Amazon. Generally they come in threes. Which is cool. You have a set of things to work with. I'm going to add this orange over here. And some more purple at the bottom. And then I'm going to let it dry. And I'll come back in the next video. Shake it on, get some dots. And you don't have to leave it like that. You can move it around if you like. So that way you're not locked into any particular orientation. Another note, I am working vertically because my camera is cooperating best that way, but you can move it any direction. You can move it horizontally. You can work at an angle if you want. Okay, I'm going to dry this and be back.